The stage lights dim as a small barefoot Filipino boy steps onto the America's Got Talent stage. His clothes are simple, his hands trembling, but his eyes shine with quiet determination. When Simon Cowell asks, "Why are you here today?" the boy smiles softly and replies, "To dance. For my mom. She couldn't afford to come, but I promised I'd make her proud." The audience falls silent. No one knows what's about to happen next, but within minutes Simon Cowell will be in tears. The sun dipped low over the skyline of Manila, painting the streets in shades of gold and orange. Amid the chaos of jeepneys honking, vendors shouting, and laughter echoing through narrow alleys, a barefoot boy named Liam danced. His stage was a cracked patch of concrete beside his mother's small fruit stand, where the air smelled of mangoes, dust, and dreams too heavy for a 13-year-old to carry. Liam wasn't dancing for fame or applause. He was dancing to keep hope alive. His mother, Aling Rosa, had worked tirelessly for years, waking before dawn to buy fruit from the market and carrying baskets heavier than her frame could bear. Every evening, when exhaustion clouded her eyes, Liam would set down a small portable speaker, a gift from a neighbor, and start to move. His movements were raw, untrained, but full of emotion. He'd spin, leap, and glide with a grace that felt too natural to be learned. The locals would pause, drawn by something more than just rhythm. There was feeling in the way Liam danced, a story hidden in every step. He'd often smile at his mother mid-routine, his eyes sparkling. "Someday, Ma," he'd say between breaths, "I'll dance on a big stage, and you won't have to sell fruit anymore." She'd laugh softly, wiping sweat from her brow. "As long as you dance with your heart, Anak, you're already winning." But beneath that smile, Rosa worried. The streets were not kind, and dreams like Liam's were fragile things, easily broken by hunger, reality, or life's cruel unpredictability. Still, she never let him see her fear. She let him dream, because it was the only thing they could afford that didn't cost a cent. One rainy afternoon, as thunder rolled across the city, a foreign tourist stopped near the fruit stall. He held an umbrella and a phone, watching in quiet awe as Liam danced barefoot in the downpour, undeterred by the mud and cold. His laughter mixed with the rhythm of raindrops as he performed for his mother, her eyes shining, her hands clasped together in prayer. The tourist smiled, recorded a short clip, and shared it online with a caption, "This kid dances like his heart is on fire." Liam didn't think much of it. He didn't even own a phone. But within days, that video spread across the world. Comments poured in from every corner of the internet. "Who is this boy? Someone get him on a real stage." And then, one ordinary morning, an email arrived at a nearby internet cafe addressed to Liam D. from America's Got Talent. He read it over and over, unable to believe it was real. His mother cried silently beside him, her hands trembling. That night, they sat outside their small home under a sky full of stars. "Ma," he whispered, "I told you. I'll make you proud." And for the first time in years, hope didn't feel like a dream. It felt like destiny knocking on their door. The doors of the America's Got Talent theater opened, and Liam stood frozen for a moment, his breath catching in his chest. The bright lights, the echoing applause, the massive stage stretching out before him. It was nothing like the cracked pavement of Manila. He clutched the small wooden bracelet his mother had given him, the one carved with the word Pangarap, dream. He whispered to himself, "For you, Ma," as he walked toward the center of the stage, his bare feet pressed against the polished floor. Every step sounded louder than the last, like the heartbeat of his destiny. The audience, a sea of strangers, stared at him, curious, expectant. And there, seated behind the judge's desk, was Simon Cowell, his sharp eyes fixed on the small boy in simple clothes and nervous hands. Simon leaned forward. "What's your name, young man?" "Liam, sir. And where are you from?" "From the Philippines." Simon smiled faintly. "That's quite far. Why are you here today?" Liam hesitated, his voice trembling. "I'm here to dance for my mom. She couldn't come, she's working back home. But I want to make her proud." For a moment, silence filled the theater. Then gentle applause rippled through the audience. The lights dimmed. The music began. A soft piano melody that slowly built into something powerful, something aching. Liam closed his eyes and took a deep breath. When he opened them, he wasn't on a stage anymore. He was back home under the Manila sun, dancing beside his mother's stall. Every movement carried a memory. The way she smiled despite exhaustion. The nights they went hungry but still prayed. The way she called him anak with love that never faded. He danced with emotion. Not precision, but that's what made it beautiful. His steps told stories words could never hold. When he leaped, it felt like he was escaping poverty. When he fell to his knees, it felt like surrender to love and sacrifice. The audience was silent, completely mesmerized. Simon's usual stern expression softened, his eyes following every movement as though he were seeing more than a performance, as though he were seeing truth. As the final note played, Liam raised his hands toward the ceiling, a gesture of gratitude, of prayer, for his mother, for every person who had ever dared to dream despite the odds. The last echo of music faded, then an eruption. The crowd stood clapping, cheering, some even crying. Liam blinked through the lights, overwhelmed. He'd never heard such sound before, not in the alleys of Manila, not anywhere. Simon leaned back, his hand over his mouth, visibly moved. He didn't speak right away. He didn't have to. Everyone could feel it. This wasn't just talent. It was heart. And as Liam stood there, trembling and teary-eyed, he realized something profound. He hadn't just danced for his mother. He had danced for every dreamer who'd ever been told, "You can't." As the music swelled to its emotional peak, something shifted in the air. It was as if time itself paused to listen. Liam, small and barefoot on that massive stage, was no longer just a boy dancing. He was a storyteller, a vessel of emotion channeling every ounce of love, pain, and hope he had ever felt. The melody softened and Liam's movements slowed. Each gesture now told a story, his story. With every spin, he remembered the long days under the Manila sun. With every reach of his hands, he thought of his mother lifting heavy baskets, whispering, "Kaya natin ito." We can do this. His heart pounded in rhythm with the music, his body moving like it was being guided by something far greater than choreography. The audience watched, transfixed. There was no background spectacle, no flashing lights, no fancy costume, just a boy, his shadow, and his truth. Then came the moment that silenced even the air. Liam dropped to his knees, his small hands cupped as if holding something invisible. His face turned upward, trembling. The lights dimmed until only a soft glow surrounded him. In that fragile silence, he lifted his hands slowly toward the heavens and whispered, barely audible but filled with meaning, "That's for my mom." It wasn't part of the act. It wasn't rehearsed. It was real. The audience gasped. Some covered their mouths. Others wiped away tears. The music faded completely, leaving only Liam's quiet sob as he stayed kneeling on the floor, broken and beautiful all at once. Simon Cowell, who had seen thousands of performers, leaned forward, his jaw tight, eyes glistening. He looked at the boy like he was witnessing something holy, something words couldn't define. Next to him, Heidi and Sophia exchanged glances, their eyes welling with tears. And then, something magical happened. The crowd, every single person in that vast theater, rose to their feet in unison. The applause began softly, like rain tapping on a roof, then swelled into thunderous waves of emotion. People were crying, clapping, shouting his name. Some whispered prayers. Liam stood slowly, his chest rising and falling, unsure if it was over or just beginning. He pressed his palms together and bowed, overwhelmed by the standing ovation that seemed to last forever. For the first time, he realized he hadn't just performed. He had touched souls. The camera panned across the audience. A mother holding her child. An elderly man wiping tears. Simon Cowell staring silently, lost in thought. The entire room could feel the purity of what they'd just witnessed. A boy dancing not for fame, but for love. And in that sacred moment, Liam understood something deeper than victory or applause. Sometimes, the most powerful performances are not about perfection. They're about truth. He had given the world his heart, and the world had listened. For a long, breathless moment after Liam's final bow, the entire theater stood in silence. The kind of silence that feels sacred. No one moved, no one spoke. It was as though the world had stopped to honor what they had just witnessed. A 13-year-old boy from the streets of Manila had turned an ordinary stage into a cathedral of emotion. Then came the sound. a tidal wave of applause that rolled through the room, powerful and unstoppable. People were cheering, some even shouting his name. "Liam, Liam!" echoed from the rafters as the judges looked at one another in disbelief. Simon Cowell sat still for a moment, his fingers steepled under his chin, his eyes glistening. He had seen thousands of contestants, singers with perfect pitch, dancers with flawless technique. But this boy had something different. Something real. Something human. He leaned forward, his voice low but firm. "Liam," he began, "I don't think I've ever seen a performance that spoke so loudly without saying a single word." Liam blinked, unsure how to respond. His small hands trembled as he tried to smile through his tears. Simon continued, his voice breaking slightly. "What you did today wasn't just dance, it was a story. It was love, it was truth." The crowd erupted again, but Simon wasn't done. He stood up slowly, took a deep breath, and looked directly at the boy. The other judges sensed it. Something extraordinary was about to happen. "And you know what, Liam?" Simon said softly, his hand hovering above the table. "I think the world needs to see more of this kind of heart." Then, with one swift motion, he slammed the golden buzzer. The sound of the buzzer filled the theater like thunder. And instantly, a shower of golden confetti rained down from the ceiling, sparkling under the lights. Liam gasped, covering his mouth in shock. For a moment he just stood there, frozen in disbelief. Then the tears came, raw, unstoppable tears of joy, gratitude, and love. He dropped to his knees, reaching his hands toward the sky as golden flakes fell around him like blessings. The audience screamed, the judges stood, and even Simon wiped the corner of his eye as he smiled through the haze of gold. Backstage, his mother's voice echoed in his mind. "As long as you dance with your heart, Anak, you're already winning." And in that instant, he realized he had. Simon walked onto the stage, something he rarely did, and knelt beside him. He placed a comforting hand on Liam's shoulder. "You made your mother proud today, son. You made all of us proud." Liam nodded, unable to speak, his tears mixing with the gold that covered the floor. The camera zoomed in on his face, on the boy who had turned pain into art, love into light. That night, millions watched the clip online. And across the world, people didn't just see a dancer, and they saw a reminder. Greatness isn't born from perfection. It's born from heart. Backstage, Liam sat on a small black couch, still trembling, his face streaked with tears and golden glitter. His heart pounded as if it hadn't yet caught up with what had just happened. The crew, makeup artists, and even some contestants surrounded him, not out of curiosity but pure admiration. Everyone wanted to meet the boy who had just moved Simon Cowell to tears. A camera crew approached gently, asking if he wanted to say a few words for the audience watching around the world. Liam wiped his cheeks, smiled shyly, and nodded. His voice was soft but steady, the kind that came from a place deeper than confidence. "If you have a dream, even if people say you're too poor, too small, or too far away, don't stop. Just keep dancing.
Keep believing.
Because someone somewhere will see your light." The producer lowered the camera, his eyes wet. The room fell silent for a moment, the kind of silence born from awe. That single clip would soon travel across every corner of social media, touching millions of hearts overnight. Within days, the video titled 13-year-old Filipino performer moves Simon Cowell to tears exploded online. People shared it with captions like "Faith in humanity restored" and "This boy reminded me to never give up." News outlets featured his story, calling him the dancer of hope. In schools across America, children watched Liam's audition and clapped for him in classrooms. Dancers in Europe created tribute videos. Even celebrities shared his clip, calling it a moment that reminded them why art matters. But back home in Manila, something even more beautiful was happening. In a small market under the same fading tarpaulin, Liam's mother, Aling Rosa, watched the replay on a cracked phone screen. She covered her mouth, sobbing quietly as she saw her son surrounded by golden confetti. The vendors around her stopped selling, gathering near to watch. When Simon Cowell pressed that golden buzzer, they all cheered, the entire street erupting with pride. A neighbor placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "He did it, Rosa, he really did it." She nodded, whispering through her tears, "He's always danced with his heart. Now the world can see it too." Weeks later, Liam appeared on stage again for the live shows, but this time, He wasn't just dancing for his mom. He was dancing for every child who'd ever dreamed barefoot, every parent who'd ever sacrificed silently. His story had become a symbol of perseverance and love. In an interview, Simon Cowell later said, "That boy reminded me that talent isn't about how perfect you are. It's about how deeply you make people feel." As the credits rolled on his audition's replay, Liam's words lingered in millions of hearts. Even if you have nothing, you can still give the world your heart. And that became his legacy, a simple boy from the streets of Manila who proved that dreams don't belong to the rich or famous. They belong to anyone brave enough to believe.